am excited to keep talking about Matthew 6.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
And real quick, do you think that you could give us like a quick snapshot again of what the economy of the kingdom is and looks like?
Yeah. So when I think about like an economy, I think about like a system or systems that are built around finances, but also just built around like the way things are done financially. And so when I think about what New Earth is going to be like when Jesus comes back and he makes all things right again, well, let me put it this way. There are things that we have an opportunity to do right now in life while Earth is in the shape that it's in. There are things that we have an opportunity to do now that we won't once Jesus comes back. One of those things is to live a life in which we have the potential, and I'm sure most, if not everybody listening to this, has experienced this. And it's just what we've been talking about: fear of lack, worry about tomorrow. Am I going to have enough? Am I secure? Is everything going to be okay? When Jesus comes and he makes all things right and all things new again, those kinds of thoughts and feelings won't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So, like, how amazing is it, in a sense? Maybe it doesn't always feel amazing, but I think it is. How amazing is it to have an opportunity to live a life in which we are presented with opportunities for our imaginations to be ruled with fear and worry about lack, and to say, but I'm going to trust you anyways.
Yeah.
And when I think about the economy of the new creation, I think about a life in which there's no worry, there's no fear. Everybody practices radical generosity, knowing that there is absolutely no way they're not going to have what they need.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I think of the economy of the new creation. It's an economy that's built on generosity rather than greed.
Right.
It's an economy that is built upon getting to give rather than how people often practice now of giving to get.
Yeah.
And so, Jesus is making things right, and he is looking for people on the earth right now who will live in such a way that they make things right. And like we talked about last episode, of bringing the kingdom here and making the world back right side up.
Yes.
And so when I think about the economy of the new creation, that's what I think about.
Okay.
And we have an invitation from Jesus to start living now in such a way that we put our trust in the Lord rather than in finances. And in doing so, we get filled with joy, we get filled with peace. We are able to practice the radical generosity that we'll know to be normal on the new earth. We'll know that to be normal, but we're actually invited to live that way now and usher in the ways of the kingdom, the economy of the kingdom, and to live here where we might face lack. We might have fears and worries about not having enough. But if our trust is in the right place, those fears will start to be replaced with just a confidence that, well, I don't know how this will turn out, but I know that God is good and he does good things. And so I'm going to allow my mind to just wonder about how his goodness will show up.
Yeah, that's really good. As you were talking, I kind of got a picture of like a market, like a big marketplace where and when I think of economy, I kind of think of like a giant marketplace almost.
Sure.
Of where a lot of like buying and trading and selling and exchanges are happening. And like the economy of the new creation looks a lot like us giving our trust and in exchange getting peace and giving our trust again and our faith and in exchange getting like a sense of rest and comfort and provision.
Yeah.
And it's like that, we're not giving him our trust. Well, you can't really falsely give somebody your trust.
No.
Either you trust him or you don't. So like when you are truly giving over your trust to him, that is when you are filled with joy and hope and peace. And I just kind of saw, as you were talking, that exchange happening, that like that is when the new creation is starting to be ushered in, when we are exchanging our trust for his goodness, for his provision, for his peace. And like those little, it seems small, because we're doing little steps of trust, every single day. But as we do that, it's going to grow and grow, and it's going to be more and more contagious and spread. And people are going to look at our lives and see like, okay, something about you is different. Like this is going really wrong, but you're still okay. Like you're not spiraling. You're not posting on social media, freaking out and like, what am I going to do? Like people notice those things. And that's how the economy of the new creation spreads and grows, is when people see, okay, what's different about you? And they want to know. And then you can share, it's because I trust in Jesus. And then his kingdom is allowed to grow and spread here. And then it ushers all of that good stuff in.
Yeah. And I know I talked about this last week a little bit, but I want to talk again about just this idea that when Jesus was here on the earth, he taught that the kingdom is at hand. And that was everything he taught. He pretty much taught most consistently just about the kingdom.
Right.
And bringing the kingdom and what the kingdom is like. Like that's what his parables were like all about. The kingdom is like, and then he would say something mysterious.
Right.
And
Leave you wondering.
Yeah. So while he was here, he taught that the kingdom was at hand, and he brought the kingdom, and he taught his disciples to do the same. And we also know at the same time that when he comes back, he will bring his kingdom here to like the fullest, most complete sense.
Right.
So he will come and he'll make the earth new again. And I think I said this last week, but there's this idea that I think it's N.T. Wright put it this way, that since the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, heaven and earth have been on a collision course. And one day they will be fully like one and the same.
Yeah.
So we'll be living on the earth. It'll be a new earth. And how exactly he does that is unclear to me.
Right.
But I don't believe that he's like done with this world. I don't want to go far down the rabbit hole of like eschatology and like rapture theory. But I think there are some beliefs in the church around the end times that have caused Christians to live in such a way that, well, this world is pretty much going straight to hell. And so we're not going to worry too much about it.
Right.
And we're going to let the world get as dark as we can, because when the world is at its darkest, Jesus will come and he'll snatch us up. And so...
Yeah.
And
see you later, Earth.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's a bummer, because like Jesus was like, no, like make this place look like the kingdom.
Yeah.
Like that's actually the mission.
Right.
It's not to let it just go to waste and then wait for Jesus to snatch us up.
Right.
Actually, like Jesus is like, hey, while you're alive, live the way I lived. Do what I did. Bring the kingdom. And then here's the Great Commission. Make disciples of all nations, baptize people, and then when the time is right, I'll come back and I'll finish the job. I'll finish what we started.
Right.
Operation Garden of Eden will be complete.
Yeah. Yeah. And how cool is that thought that like we have part of the responsibility of like stewarding this world in such a way that it looks more and more like his kingdom. Like, I feel like that is way cooler than just being like, like forget about this earth. Like, I'm just going to get through it here and I'm going to do my best, keep to myself and not really worry about it. And then, then I'll go to heaven. But I think it just seems way more like Jesus to me to think that like, yeah, this is a partnership. We're all doing this together.
Yeah.
He's including us in this, trusting us with bringing his kingdom while, we wait for him to return.
Yeah. And so I think back to like the Garden of Eden. God made Adam and Eve, and he said, and he blessed them, be fruitful and multiply. But then he gave them dominion over the rest of creation.
Yeah.
He said, subdue it. And so their commission was to make the rest of the world look like the garden.
Right.
So like, here's this garden, it's this perfect paradise. I'm here, you're here, we're here together. and we're going to like spread this, and we want this to cover the whole earth.
Yeah.
And that went a bit sideways.
Right.
But then Jesus came and he got us back on track.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's the same thing.
Yep.
That's the commission, is to make the world look more like his kingdom.
Yeah.
And we do that by being discipled and by making disciples and living the way that Jesus would have us live.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, and I want to bring that back to what we're talking about out of Matthew 6, the kingdom is here, but it's also still coming.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, we've been made new, but we also are in the process of learning how to live out of our newness, how to love the way Jesus loved, and how to live righteously.
Right.
And when Jesus comes, he will like finish that job too.
Mm-hmm.
One day we will be made completely new
Right.
and perfect.
Yes. And not have the struggles that we still have today.
Yeah.
Of like when you have, I feel like it's unfortunately, a typical pattern that you see that like you're doing really well and you see a lot of growth, and then you kind of hit a slump, like you go on vacation or whatever, and you get out of out of your routine, out of your normal. It's crazy that vacation can do that, but
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
But then, you get back on the horse, and it's just a little upsy downsy.
Well, yeah, and we're trying to like cultivate our spiritual growth and our
Yeah.
spiritual formation in a world that is in absolute opposition
Right.
to all of that. And so becoming like Jesus is like the most against the grain thing you can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
that's why it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to
It is.
to live in the culture we live in, and to try to pursue spiritual formation is like really tough.
Yeah. Because the other things are so loud
Yeah.
too, so that like we have to intentionally lean into his whisper and lean into the quietness and the peace
Yeah.
that he has for us. And that can sometimes be the harder choice when everything else around us is so loud and busy and
Yeah.
attention grabbing, really.
Yeah. I know several weeks ago, maybe months ago at this point, we talked about this idea that if you're not intentionally being discipled by Jesus, you're unintentionally being discipled by the world.
Yep.
In that, like, we are being formed into the image of something. We're being shaped by something and influenced by something. And the only way Jesus is the person doing the influencing is if we willingly give him the position of Lord.
Yeah.
And say, actually, I'm going to look to you. I want to live your way. I want to become like you. I want to do what you did.
Right.
If you're not intentional in doing that, like I've said before, you will never accidentally become like Jesus.
No.
You have to actually like orient your life in such a way that you are aimed in that direction.
Yep.
Anyways, back to
Back again.
so with the world, or with the kingdom being here partially to the degree that we bring it here, I think we're going to see throughout the rest of Matthew 6 that there's an invitation that Jesus extends to actually like partake in what I would call like the economy of the new creation now.
Yeah.
And a lot of that looks like redirecting trust. And that's honestly like kind of the major piece of that, but we'll get there. So let's read starting in verse 22. I'm going to read a couple of verses and then talk about that.
Alrighty.
Jesus said, "The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness?" And then, famously, he said, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." So a couple things to note there. The word healthy is the Greek word haplous, and it means single, it means clear and sincere and sound. But it also means, and I think this helps me understand what he's saying, especially, I feel like this is also a callback to what he said at the very beginning of the chapter, which we'll talk about that again too. But the word healthy there, the word haplous in Greek, it means without a hidden agenda. So he's saying if your eye or if your focus is single and it's without a hidden agenda, And to me, that reminds me of his 3 warnings at the beginning of the chapter. Don't give the way the hypocrites give. Don't pray the way the hypocrites pray.
Right.
Don't fast the way they fast, because they all had a hidden agenda. Right? It wasn't about praying. It wasn't about generosity. It wasn't about fasting. It was about being seen as practicing your righteousness by other people.
Yeah.
And to me, it feels like kind of a callback to that, to where he spent all that time saying, hey, like, your motivation matters. It's not actually just what you do, but it's your heart posture behind what you do.
Yes.
That makes something righteous or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is also, I feel like, foreshadowing to what he's going to say, because in a bit we're going to read that he says, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness.
Right. Let that be your singular focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then of course he says you can't serve the 2 masters.
Right.
You can't serve God and money. And that's also a big part of it too, because like, how easy is it to go through life like almost trying to like teeter that line of like wanting money and having your life like orchestrated in such a way that like that's kind of your focus and your goal is just like, how do I get more money? Balancing that between like serving the Lord, but also living your life directed towards money is like, I think extremely common.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you can you can start out with your focus on the Lord of like, I want to do what I can to glorify your kingdom. And like, you're my main thing. You're my priority. And then the money starts rolling in.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, this is pretty nice.
This is great.
Like, this is actually, I can rely on this.
Yeah.
But can you?
Yeah. And then, and this is super important, and this would be more easily understood, I think, if we understood the word for money here, or which is really mammon, which is really the Greek word. I don't know how to say it, mammonas, something like that. But it means, it's a Semitic term. It's very rarely used. It wasn't a super common word.
Right.
The only other time it appears in the Gospels or in the New Testament at all is when Jesus is basically giving the same teaching in Luke, maybe 16, somewhere around there. So it doesn't appear often, but it's a Semitic term, and it literally means the treasure that a person trusts in. So he's saying you can't serve God and simultaneously this treasure that you put your trust in.
Right. Yeah.
So to me, I'm reading this and trying to like read it and understand it through the lens of what Jesus really meant to his audience in that day. And so what we were just saying is so fascinating, that like, how easy is it to start off the right way, serving God? He's your priority, right? Especially when you like people who just get saved and like really just meet the Lord.
Yeah.
It's like, and I know that happened to me for sure. And I think you probably had a similar experience that like we both grew up in church, but there was a moment in our lives when the Lord like captured our attention, and it was like, I am 100% in on this.
Yeah.
Like, you're all I want. You're all I can even think about right now.
Yep.
And then sometimes life just kind of happens and you just get a little more familiar, comfortable.
Sure. Yeah.
With the Lord.
Comfortability can definitely play a part in letting go of that like passion and the fire, which is unfortunate, but it makes sense whenever like, because I mean, and think about it, like in the start of our relationship, you know, like we were, which I mean, I would say we're still intentional with each other in, you know, a very different, more comfortable and familiar way. But like at those first few months, it's like we're texting constantly. We're always in conversation. Like I'm making sure that I'm like looking my best and like
we're writing notes to each other, love notes.
And then as you start to get more and more comfortable, you know, you kind of ease up on those things and you don't feel as much pressure to like make a statement of how you feel. And I think there's beauty in the comfortability. Like, I think there's beauty to be found in being comfortable in your relationship with the Lord. Absolutely. So you don't feel like you're like, what am I doing here? But also if you let that ease and that almost, I don't want to say laziness, but kind of set in of like, well, no, like we're together. It's fine. Like, I don't really need to prove anything. I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, that is true, but also he's worthy of our affection and our attention and our praise and our everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's different with the Lord.
Yeah. And there's that phrase, familiarity breeds contempt.
Yes.
Contempt just being like a sort of like a disregarding of value or of being worthy of consideration.
Right.
So think about like we were saying, it's so easy at first to feel like the Lord is like everything. And it feels really easy to make the pursuit of him and his kingdom and his righteousness first. It feels really easy. But then as time goes on, there's a few more distractions, a few more things pulling for our attention and for our time. And so Jesus is warning that probably his greatest competitor for the position of Lord in our lives, for our attention, for our allegiance, is going to be money. And so he's saying your focus needs to be singular without a hidden agenda.
Right.
And there are going to be these two things fighting for your affection, for your attention.
Yeah.
It's going to be God and it's going to be money or mammon, which is the treasure that you trust in.
Yeah. And I think it's fascinating to me too that like when you do make the Lord your singular focus, when he truly is who you're going after, you're all in, you're giving him everything you've got. A natural byproduct often is financial peace,
Yeah.
like whether, and notice that I didn't say abundance always.
Sure.
It is not always abundance.
Yeah.
Yes, I do think, and like from our experience, I think blessing, absolutely. But when he really is your focus, finances, just the worries about them and like the troubles seem to overall, just become less and less. I'm not saying that they disappear, but when he's your focus, he just makes all those things seem like way less of a big deal because, like you mentioned earlier, your trust falls on him rather than in your material things.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that those two, that he makes that point to say that like, you're going to be your biggest battle here.
Yeah.
But when you trust in me, these things will work themselves out.
Yeah. Yeah. He's saying you're going to trust something. You can't get around that.
Right.
You're going to put your trust in something because, and this is going back to last episode, he's addressing, like, I'll say this, that Jesus is not blind to like the condition of the human experience, the human heart, human needs. He's not unaware of that.
Yeah.
So he's addressing people and he's saying, hey, you're going to trust something. You can trust money, you can trust mammon, or you can trust God.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say this. This is in verse 25 and on. He says, therefore I tell you, don't be anxious about your life, what you'll eat or what you'll drink, or about your body, what you'll put on. Is life not more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap, nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon, in all his glory, was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore, do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat? What shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek after these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, For tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. And there's so much there.
So much backed in.
But here is this kind of like, to me, this feels like such a great like crescendo moment, because he spends, the first 24 verses basically just talking about like our relationship with money and possessions, and he's warning us about like the motivation of our heart.
Right.
He's warning us about having hidden agendas and hidden motives, and he's warning us about the dangers of trusting money or trusting in like the treasures and the riches that we have over God. And then it's this big crescendo moment. He's like, here's why.
Right.
Here's why. It's
Yes.
because you are so deeply cared for and you are so deeply known by the Father
Yeah.
that when you seek his kingdom and you seek his righteousness and you live in such a way that you trust him and that your life is like oriented and aimed towards him and his kingdom,
Yeah.
he'll take care of you.
Right. Yeah. It's not just like a don't do this, don't do this,
Yeah.
don't do this. He doesn't leave us without an explanation. It's like, it's because you are so loved.
Yeah.
Like, you do not have to think about these things. You don't have to worry and toil. And I mean, it's such a beautiful picture talking about like the flowers, and it's like how much more intentionally like created we were. Like, yes, flowers are beautiful. They're amazing. But like, if you look at us as humans, we've got a lot more going on than flowers do.
Yeah. And him talking about the birds, and I've heard people talk about this, and this is, I just love making this connection. Him talking about the birds feels a little bit like a callback to Genesis 1. So when he made the birds, and I think it was the birds and the fish, and the very first blessing that the Lord pronounced in the Bible was actually towards them. So he created them, and it was them first that he blessed and said, be fruitful and multiply.
Okay.
So it's almost like Jesus is giving a call back to creation, saying that like the birds were given a job to do,
Yeah.
and there's never been a time where birds like collectively didn't have what they need
Sure.
to
Yeah.
do the job that they were created to do. Now, this gets complicated and nuanced even when you start thinking about like, okay, well, like I see dead birds on the side of the road,
Sure.
and I know like it's hard to talk about this in a sense in the context that like we also know that there are millions and millions and millions of people in the world who don't necessarily have what they need.
Right.
They're going without
Yeah.
food. They're going without shelter
Yeah.
and without security. Those needs are not being met. So I think you almost have to take Jesus here, speaking in the context of like eternity. And I think you can do that because, and this is just such a big topic, but when you go back to Matthew 5, the first or through the Beatitudes, he's basically saying, hey, they're blessed are, and he goes through, the poor in spirit, blessed are the peacemakers. And
Yeah.
he has the whole list. And the word blessed is, maybe we've talked about this before, but it's the word ashrei, and it means the good life. And he's making a pronouncement of what it means to have the good life.
Okay.
And he's basically listing people that you wouldn't ever look at and think, oh, they have the good life.
Right. Yeah.
But what he's doing is he's contrasting their experience on earth, the lows of their experience on earth, with the highs of their experience in the kingdom throughout the context of eternity. So you wouldn't look at the people he's talking up to, right? He was often addressing large groups of very marginalized people.
Right.
The people around him were poor. They were hurting. They were super broken. They had tons of needs.
Yeah.
And what he's doing is he's making this pronouncement that, like, I see you guys, and I want you to know that from where I'm standing, you have the good life.
Yeah.
Not because things are awesome for you here, but because your experience here on earth now, in contrast with life in the kingdom, life on the new earth, new creation is going to be so like just so radical.
Yeah.
And Jesus, I think he often taught that way and talked to people in that way, in that like, he made statements like, well, I didn't come for the righteous or for the healthy,
Sure.
right? I
Yep.
came for the sick and I came for the broken.
Yeah.
They're the ones I came for.
Right.
And like in one sense, he did teach that like everything that we need, we have in the Father. But that also leads to conversations about like, well, why is the world in the shape that it's in?
Right.
And then, you could have conversations about how like there's actually enough resources on the earth. And it's just because people are selfish and greedy that
Yeah.
so many people, don't have what they need.
Right. Generosity
Yeah.
in its true form is not being experienced here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. But Jesus, throughout his teachings is, and I love this crescendo moment of, but don't worry. If you're seeking the Father and if you're trusting him, you like, and like you said before, like it's amazing how worry begins to cease and how fears of like lack
Yeah.
and fears about the future start to go away.
Right.
Because you just know that God is good and God does good things.
Yeah.
And I trust him. And because I trust him, that fear just kind of
Yeah.
disappears.
Right. And I mean, like practically speaking, we are currently living in a season of really, if you look at it from a worldly perspective, lack
Sure.
as
Yeah.
far as like income.
Yep.
But neither of us, there may have been like a few times where it's been like, oh, this month is a little tighter than usual.
Yeah.
But it's still overall is like, no, you know what? We have lived, we have enough relational equity with the Lord. We've lived enough life with him that we are just able to fully trust that like, even if it doesn't make sense on paper, he makes it make sense somehow. And we are always taken care of. We always have what we need. We are not like living in crazy abundance right now. However, I would say that we're living in abundance in like every other area except for like just actual money.
Yeah. Well, I would say that we have an absolute abundance of peace.
Yes.
Is what we have.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, it would be easy to be in our position financially and live every day worrying about what tomorrow looks like.
Right.
And how are these bills going to get paid? But at the same time, like I always tell people that if you were to put on a paper like how much money we've made compared to how much money we've given away and how much money we still have, the numbers don't add up.
Right.
They just don't.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because we have lived generously, at times giving away amounts of money that I would call like irresponsible from a worldly perspective.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, like we've just always had what we need.
Yep.
And I think that the generosity we've practiced has been the thing that has unlocked the peace that we have
I agree.
regarding
Yeah.
finances. And that ties into one of my favorite verses, Romans 15:13, that may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him.
Yes.
And that's just one of my favorite verses, that it's not, he doesn't give you peace and joy and then you trust him. It's, he gives you the fullness of joy and peace as you trust him.
Right.
So I would say that the level of peace and the level of joy that a person has in any particular area of their life is in direct proportion to the amount of trust they're willing to extend to the Lord to be their, whatever it is, their provider, their protector,
Yeah.
the God of their future, the God of, the present.
Absolutely.
And we've practiced generosity. And as a result, we have, going back to what I was saying at the beginning, we have I felt like we've kind of been ushered into, in a sense, the economy of the new creation, in that, on one hand, Jesus never promised that living life his way would be trouble-free.
Right.
He promised that life would be hard.
Yep.
He promised that we would have trouble. Even that very last thing I read, therefore don't be anxious about tomorrow. Tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. So he's like, trusting the Father doesn't mean you won't have troubles. It just means that like you'll be able to get through
Yes.
that.
Right. You
You'll
don't
have-
have to look in the future and worry like, oh, what's going to come next week? Like, ooh, and just be a ball of worry. You can take each day at a time, wake up every morning, agree to trust the Father again,
Yep.
and then just take it as it comes.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that like preparation is, I feel like there's so much depth to these topics that it's like, we're
Yeah.
not just saying that you don't worry about anything and you're irresponsible and you just let the Lord take care of everything. Like we are partnering with him. We have responsibility in that trust that we have in him. It's not just, we're not sitting on our hands doing nothing and expecting him to work out everything for us. It's, there's so much depth to it. So don't hear us saying that, but
Yeah.
just knowing that worrying genuinely is something that he calls us not to do. And it is never going to help you experience his goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a few closing thoughts, but I do want to address when he says, don't be anxious about anything. Don't be anxious about tomorrow. In one sense, like I don't necessarily know that he meant anxiety the way we think of it today.
Right.
Because in one sense, anxiety is almost like your body responding to something. It's just your body's response.
Sure.
So like if I was experiencing anxiety, it wouldn't be helpful for you to say, well, just stop.
Quit doing that.
Is so unhelpful. So if there are people listening, and if you're listening to this right now and you're like, actually, I do feel very anxious. I feel anxious about finances. I feel anxious about my future.
Yeah.
I feel uncertain. I don't know whether anything or everything is going to be okay. We know that it's not helpful to sit here and say, well, just stop.
Right.
Just don't do that. That's really unhelpful. But I think what Jesus is saying, I think to get a fuller picture of what he meant when he talks about like, don't be anxious about these things is, and I've heard Tim Mackey from the Bible Project talked about this specifically, that I think maybe another way to look at it is to say that Jesus is inviting us again to assess what exactly is ruling our imagination. Is it being ruled by doubts and fears of lack? Or are we creating habits and rhythms and disciplines in our lives to where we're teaching our mind and our imagination to be ruled by not wondering what could go wrong, but just wondering how the Lord is going to be faithful?
Yeah.
Wondering, or just knowing that the Lord is good, that he is faithful, and then allowing our imagination, like I said, rather than wondering about what's going to go wrong, wondering about what his goodness is going to look like when it shows up.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. I think that if somebody was ever wondering, if anybody listening to this is wondering, how do I gauge my level of trust in the Lord? And this isn't just with finances. I think this is with any area of our
Sure.
lives.
Yeah.
But because we're talking about money, we'll talk about that. So, like, how do I gauge my level of trust? I think the first thing is, how much worry and fear am I experiencing? Like, is this area of my life marked by peace and joy and confidence? Or is it marked more by like anxiety, fear, worry?
Yeah.
Because I think that is a really good indication that trust has been misplaced. Because the reason trust in the Lord leads to joy and peace is that he is the only one who is perfect in faithfulness.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's nothing else you could put your trust in that will be as faithful and as consistent and as perfect as he is.
Right.
So you put your trust in money, and that might feel good when the money is good. And then if the money's not good, you
Right.
are overcome with worry and
Yeah.
fear and anxiety and all of those things.
Yep.
But like, because the Lord is constant, he's unchanging, he's steady. So when our trust is in him, the peace and the joy can remain unchanged. It can remain steady. So, like, trust in the Lord allows peace and joy, the presence of peace and joy, to override whatever your circumstances look like.
Yeah.
Circumstances can be tough. Circumstances could warrant or justify worry and fear and all of those things. But there's just something about having an absolute trust and confidence in the Lord and in his goodness and his faithfulness that will make room for a joy and a peace to come in that is as steady and unchanging as he is.
Yeah.
Because he's just good. He's just faithful.
Right. It's like building your house upon the rock versus building it upon the sand.
Exactly.
When you build your house upon the rock, storms are still going to come.
Yeah.
You're still going to get rained on. You might lose a shingle here and there, you know, but your house will still be there.
Yep.
But if you build it upon the sand, when troubles come, it all just crashes down. So that's a really beautiful picture that we can look to and remember, okay, you're the rock that I can build my house on.
And the difference, Jesus said when he was teaching that, the difference between people who build their house on the sand versus people who build their house on the rock is that he said the people who build their house on the rock are the ones who listen and obey. That was the distinction he made.
Yep.
So again, that is directly related to what we just read where Jesus said, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness.
Yes.
It's funny. I feel like that part often gets left out. How often have you heard people say, or I've said this, like I've just quoted it as seek first the kingdom and these things will be added to you.
Yeah.
But I think we're leaving out some crucial words there.
There's a few big things in there.
Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness. And again, that's a callback to Matthew 5, the previous chapter, because Jesus said, unless your righteousness exceeds those of the Pharisees and scribes, you won't enter the kingdom of heaven. So like there is a way, Proverbs 14:12 says there's a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death. So there's a way that seems right to a man, but Jesus is saying there's actually a way that is the one right way, and it's my way.
Yeah.
And if you'll trust me, and if you'll live the way I'm asking you to live, like these things will line up for you.
Yeah.
But it's when we don't trust and we don't listen and we don't obey that the life we're building and the house, if you will, that we're constructing is built upon a foundation that just can't withstand the storms of life, and it can't withstand the difficulty, and it crumbles. So yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
There you go.
That feels like a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Cool. And also it feels like a good time to ask everybody listening, don't turn it off yet. Listen. Come back. Don't stop listening yet. Can you do us a huge favor if you haven't already? If you would either leave us a good review or honestly just hit like a good rating, just a 5-star rating. We're not asking you to spend an hour typing anything up. If you want to type something up, that's super helpful. But if not, just click that 5-star rating. If you have found value in our content, that is a very small thing you can do that helps us in a really big way. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you could like this video and subscribe, that's also a really small thing you can do that helps us in a really big way. But that's going to be it for this episode.
Alrighty.
Okay. Well, once again, my name is Brian.
And I'm Katie.
And we're making history. We'll see you next time.